what's going on, everyone? Welcome to my ranking of the Monsterverse franchise. Um, I've always been a huge fan of the Godzilla films and the King Kong films. One of my favorite films of all time, it's in my top films, is this one right here, the 1962 King Kong versus Godzilla. I wore this tape out when I was younger. I now own it on two VHSs. I've got it on Blu-ray, DVD. Um, love the film, even though it's corny as all get out and cheesy. I still love it. The Godzilla films to this day, I feel like, yeah, some of them's cheesy, but man, it's just got that special feeling when I watch them. Like it brings me back to my childhood because like I said, I've always loved the monster movies. And then when they started coming out in 2014 with the first Godzilla film, I was super excited. And then when I found out that they're actually going to do a monster universe, that made me more excited. Ever since Godzilla 2014 all the way to now Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire, I cannot wait to see where they're going with it, what they're going to do with it. But I feel like now it's time for me to rank the films. I've been wanting to do another ranking video, but not just horror movies. So that being said, before we get into the actual ranking, I do want everybody to know that I do like all these films. There's just some, of course, that I like better than the others, and they're not without their issues. So let's get that out of the way. And before I start ranking them, as always, this is just my opinion. This isn't an official ranking. This is just my opinion. So I'd love to hear your guys and gals' opinion on the Monsterverse, if you watch the films or not. But all right, let's get going. Okay, coming in at number 5, dead last for me, is Godzilla 2014. When this film come out, actually, goodness, it was 10 years ago. I was super excited for it, and I went to the theaters and watched it. Enjoyed the heck out of it, and I don't know if it was the theater atmosphere, if it was the surround sound or what, but I really got caught up in the movie. And then once it come out to buy on DVD and Blu-ray and I bought it, watching it at home was completely different. I do still pop the movie in every once in a while to watch it, but to me, out of all the movies that's come out so far in this universe, this is the weakest one. To go ahead and point out some of the positives of the film, I think the camera work in this film is phenomenal. I love the camera shots on how when it does show Godzilla or any of the monsters, you're seeing the camera through the eye level of the actors, of the people on the ground, and it just gives you the implication on how big these monsters really are. I really like that. Also, I thought that Bryan Cranston did a great job. I thought his acting was phenomenal, and the trailer is almost kind of deceiving where they put him at the very first and foremost as the main character. And because, of course, a lot of people was like, oh, Bryan Cranston, Breaking Bad, Walter White, he's going to be taking on Godzilla. And I remember that was the joke about this film was, oh, we get to see Walter White versus Godzilla, But then once you get into the movie, he's taken out within the first 15, 20 minutes of the film. But that was kind of a letdown. But the parts that we got with him, I feel like is the best part as far as the acting wise, the emotion wise, him losing his wife. I really feel like Bryan Cranston really set the tone for what the movie was at the beginning, and I wish would have been the middle and the end. And before I get into it, if you have not seen all 5 of these films, this is going to be spoilers, so I wouldn't continue. And more positives is I really like the music. I like the build-up, and I love the sound that when Godzilla finally does make his appearance, I love the sound that surrounds Godzilla. Especially in the theater, that surround sound, it sounded like Godzilla was right outside the walls. I love the sound they do with it. I love the roar that Godzilla they gave to him. Like I said, it was a good way to introduce people that maybe didn't watch the older Godzilla films or doesn't even know anything about it. I felt like they made his presence known when he was on the screen, which is very little. That's one of the negatives that I'll get to in a minute. But if you're a first time Godzilla watcher, I feel like this is a decent film to introduce somebody, but there are some negatives to it, and let's get into the negatives. The main characters, Elizabeth Olsen and Aaron Taylor Johnson, they're the two main characters of the film. And even though I love Elizabeth Olsen's acting, I feel like she didn't really bring anything to the movie, and nor did her husband. I feel like they were the two dullest characters that I've seen in films recently. Yeah, Bryan Cranston's son in it. He's supposed to be this tech with being able to uh, set up bombs, and that's kind of his specialty, is to be able to uh, not to set off bombs and stuff like that. And he's in the military, but he is so boring in this film. And like even his reactions to, even when he sees Godzilla or any of the monsters, it's just kind of like another day to him. Um, yeah, him and her did not carry the movie very well. Second off, the problem I have with this film is it's too dark. Uh, Even some of the monster that Godzilla fights in this, the two monsters, you could barely see. And then Godzilla, every time a fight scene was fixing to happen or was fixing to show something cool with Godzilla, it cuts like instantly. As soon as you see Godzilla, it cuts to like maybe a news broadcast or to the next scene. Uh, it's fine with teasing a little bit of Godzilla, because you want to say, like when the first time we ever see like his leg coming down, it steps down and they're on the train, that's a cool shot. But then once it pans up and he does his roar, boom, it automatically cuts. It's fine doing that for a little bit, but even in the end, the third act, when the military is jumping down, I think that's a really cool scene when they're jumping out of the airplane. But the fact is these two monsters, or these three monsters, are fighting, and you're still focusing on the military. And every time Godzilla and the monsters finally run the collide, boom, it cuts to another scene. The problem with it is that we didn't get enough Godzilla, and the actors are so poor in the film that they're dull, and you don't really care. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't. But um, like I said, I'm cool with you teasing a little bit, but man, even at the end, it was so dark when they did show them fighting, you didn't know what was going on. Uh, but with that being said, uh, I do still recommend you to watch the film to get the start of this universe. But other than that, um, that's why it's coming in at last. It played too much on the, here he is, now take it away. Here he is, now take it away. You know, we're here to for these movies to see the monsters, not the humans. And that's something that we'll get into here in a little bit. If the humans aren't interesting at all, it makes for a dull movie. But anyway, that's why this one's coming in at number 5. Okay, coming in at number 4 is Godzilla, King of the Monsters. To get right off, we'll start with the positives. I do enjoy this film, but I hate to say it, but so far this universe has not been able to actually do a Godzilla standalone film um, justice. I hate to say it that way. Like I said, I do like this film, but obviously, what's coming up next is with King Kong and stuff like that. But so far, this universe has not given us a great Godzilla one-on-one film, featuring him. There's aspects I do like about this film. I love the monsters. I love seeing King Ghidorah in the film. I love that we finally get to see Mothra, and the effects is wonderful in this film. Once again, the camera shots are great. They focused on how big the monsters are and stuff like that. You get a perspective from the humans, and the storyline. I actually do like the fact that at the beginning we see that back in 2014 when Godzilla was fighting. I don't remember what city it was, but it ended up causing Mark and Emma to lose their son. During the fighting and the pandemic that was going on in the city. But the thing that I didn't like, which is a negative, is they make Emma to be the villain of the movie. And if you're going to do that, that's fine. But where I feel they screwed up was toward the end, she tries to kind of go back to the good side, and she tries to die with dignity, and she's going to be the savior, and sacrifice herself so her daughter and her husband can leave and get out safe, but you don't give a crap because she's the one that pretty much caused all this. I mean, that's what she said. Even the main villain in the film tells her later in the movie, "You're the one that contacted me." So they want you, and that's a big leap for the writers and directors want you to do is you can't stand her once you realize that she's the villain, but then at the end they want you to have sympathy for her. No, I don't like that at all. Um, I thought Millie Bobby Brown did a great job as Madison. I think she did phenomenal. She's a phenomenal actress. Um, when we get to see the monsters finally fight, I do think they did better on this one than the 2014. But one of the things that is why this is number four is I just recently watched these movies again, and I forgot that after King Ghidorah and Mothra and Godzilla are all in the ocean fighting, and they set the atomic bomb off, and it, or I think it takes away the oxygen is what it did. I can't remember what exactly they did while Godzilla was down there. But then Godzilla is gone, like from the middle of the film all the way to the end, he's gone into his lair. Now, what's cool about that is I like where they finally showed where Godzilla goes and shows his home where he goes to recharge. I did like that aspect of it. Really did. Thought it was cool. But man, he's missing for a lot of the film. And when he finally comes back, and this is the shot that really aggravated me. Maddie is in the baseball stadium, and she's got the little thing that puts out the sounds of the monsters. And right when King Ghidorah is fixing to destroy it where she's at, all of a sudden Godzilla comes in and they start going at it. And here comes an airplane. And you could see that Godzilla and King Ghidorah is just fighting, going nuts. And all of a sudden, the airplane gets right in front of the camera and you can't even see what's going on. And it's like, really? It's like, it's supposed to be Godzilla, King of the Monsters. We're supposed to see why Godzilla is the King of the Monsters and to destroy these monsters. And once again, they did the exact same thing they did in 2014. As soon as they start fighting, they'd cut to something else. I will say the acting is better in this film. The main characters are better in this film. But I still feel like so far this universe has failed to give us a great standalone Godzilla film. Also, I do like the fact that they even mentioned Hollow Earth because that's to come, of course, in Godzilla versus Kong and then Godzilla X Kong. I never even noticed they mentioned Hollow Earth until this last time I watched it. But one of the biggest things to me that I was like, oh, this is awesome and made me really enjoy it was at the end when Godzilla is just fixing to erupt and he looks like lava. He's walking by the buildings and the buildings are melting and he's just had enough and he's super power charged and man, he just roars and it busts out like it's almost like these heat waves combined. It destroys a city and the way he kills King Ghidorah and all this. I mean, phenomenal ending with Godzilla. I just wish we could have seen more of the fight scene because the first fight scene you see of the film, it's dark and it's snowing real bad. You can still see what's going on a little bit. Like I said, it was an improvement from the 2014 film, but again, let's see him fight in the daytime. And then the very finale where they're fighting at the stadium. Once again, now it's thunder and lightning, it's pouring rain. It's like, man, show us what Godzilla looks like. Like, be proud of your creation, of what he looks like. But this is a step up from Godzilla 2014. But like I said, I just feel like in comparison to the other films, this one isn't as entertaining, as action packed. And I feel like that big leap with Vera's character where she's the villain and then all of a sudden they want you to cheer for her at the end. I just can't make that leap in this one. So that's why this one's coming in at number 4. Okay, coming in at number 3 is Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire. Now, I'm not going to go into full detail on this film because I have already released my review of the film when it first came out. But I got to say, this film overall is a good time. These next 3 films are my top favorites. I love them. These are the ones that I normally go back to watch over and over. But what I really love about this film is the journey that we go on with Kong. And there's so much in the film where there's not even a whole lot of talking. You're just seeing how Kong and the other apes are communicating with each other, but you understand it. And I think that's phenomenal. I think the writers and directors did a great job with that. I think there's a lot of action in it. I don't feel like there's ever any boring spots in the film. Um, I love the main villain, and it's just a simple fact that yes, Godzilla's not in it a whole lot, but when you do see him, and you actually get to see him in the daytime, he's kicking butt and he's going to recharge because he knows what's coming and he's getting prepared for battle. Uh, Couple more positive things. I love the music. I love the soundtrack to this film. I'm so happy they brought back Brian Henry. He played Bernie from Godzilla versus Kong. I think his acting is phenomenal. I think that his character, I think, brings a lot of humor to the film. And when it starts to get serious, he brings the humor to where it kind of relieves the tension, whatever's building up, but he makes it entertaining. That's probably my favorite character. I feel like Rebecca Hall, Dr. Andrews, I think her acting was good in the other film, but in this film, I think that it stepped up, and I like her character. So far, I hope they keep her in the films. I really like her character, and I like the relationship that she has with Katie Hoddle, who plays Gia. I think they play off each other very good. I think Gia, I think how they let her be able to like almost find her people again and how she interacted with the people and then with Mothra. I love that scene. I think she's a wonderful actress. And I actually like a newcomer into this film. His name is Dan Stevens, but he plays Trapper. I thought he was good. I thought he really brought a good sense of humor to the film. He brought in the comic relief, kind of like Bernie does. I wish he would have been in Godzilla versus Kong because I really like his acting. But like I said, I don't want to go too much into the film because I've already done my review on it. Um, if I have to say anything negative about the film, it's just I wish Godzilla was in it more. But it is another Kong story that just happens to be Godzilla. And I don't know if it's true or not. I did hear the fact that this was supposed to be a Kong movie, and then they just kind of threw Godzilla in it. I don't know. I could see that happening. The only cheesy part to me really is the fact that they just happen to have this glove for Kong when he gets hurt. It's the right hand too. I mean, I know we're supposed to have fun with these films and not really take it seriously, but I enjoy it. I love the films. Uh, but other than that, it's a great time, and it was really hard for me to pick where that was going to be placed at, but that is coming in at number 3. All right, down to the final 2. And this was my hardest choice right here to figure out which one was taken first and second place. But after sitting down, watching the films, and finally going, okay, what's it going to be? Coming in at number 2 is Kong Skull Island. I've always been a huge King Kong fan. I always proclaim that I love King Kong more than I do Godzilla. Now, in this old 1962 film, that is true. I root for King Kong every time I watch it. But the older I get and the more films that I watch, man, they're neck and neck. So I really can't say if I like Kong better or if I like Godzilla better. But this film right here is nothing but a blast. It's a fun time. I love the setting at Skull Island. The characters are great, I feel like, in this movie. I really enjoy the atmosphere and the creation of Skull Island. Of course, we got Brie Larson. She plays Mason Weaver. Samuel L. Jackson is Packard. Tom Hiddleston is James Conrad. And then John C. Reilly as Hank Marlowe. And we also have John Goodman. So right there, we have a phenomenal cast. But I like how Skull Island is protected by this storm, by these clouds, these waves, and they have to go through it. Once again, a phenomenal soundtrack. I love how they introduce Kong, how they're playing on the boombox is what I'll call it. Black Sabbath Paranoid, and all of a sudden, man, they're everybody's looking around, they're dropping these bombs, and all of a sudden you see this big old tree coming toward the helicopter, and boom, it hits, and it slows down the song Paranoid. And all of a sudden, when it picks back up, you just see the silhouette of Kong in front of the sun. Man, the shots in this film is phenomenal. I know I say that word a lot, but it truly is. I don't feel like there's any dull moments in the movie. John C. Reilly, I love his acting in this movie. Of course, it seems like they always have a comedic actor or a comedic character in the film. and he does a great job. When I first seen him, I was like, man, I don't know, because I know him from Step Brothers and Talladega Nights and stuff like that. And I was like, is he gonna be so dumb and stupid that he ruins it? And he didn't. When it was time to have his serious roles, he did a great job. But I love the fact when they're talking about going over where the skull crawlers are, and he's like, "You guys are a good bunch of guys to die with. I can tell you that." Like, I thought that was funny. I love the creatures in the movie. Um, I think Kong is almost at his best in this film, uh, and I don't understand why they can do Kong Skull Island and show how Kong is in the daytime and how he interacts, but they still can't do that with Godzilla. That still bugs me. I know I keep harping on that, but overall, the final fight scenes with Kong and the big skull crawler, I love that. I love the tension that Samuel Jackson and Kong have between each other. Uh, yeah, I just feel like everything in the movie uh, matched up really good. Like I said, as far as any of the negatives on it, I really don't have a lot to say about negatives. I don't even know if I have any really, because overall, I just think it's a fantastic movie. I think it was a good way to bring Kong into this universe and to introduce people who maybe doesn't watch any of the King Kong movies. And this is a good way to present it to them. So overall, great movie and love it. So that's coming in at number 2. So you should know now what my number 1 is, and it is going to be the 2021 Godzilla versus King Kong. I love this film. I went and saw this film twice in theaters. I've watched it many times since I've had it on Blu-ray. They finally give us Godzilla in the daytime. They finally give us what the title says: Godzilla versus Kong. We get to see them two go at it on land and sea. I remember when I first seen it, and I was like, man, they're going to make Godzilla the bad guy. And how are they going to do that? But then once the movie started playing out, spoiler alert, you was like, okay, wait a minute, he's getting prepared for something as well. It's almost like Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. So now we learn that this company is building Mecha Godzilla, which I think design is cool. They made it more realistic than what it would be back in the older films. Uh, it wasn't too cheesy to where I was like, oh, why'd you bring that character in? But I love the fact that they were using one of the King Ghidorah's head uh, to use it as the villain and putting the brain and thoughts into Mechagodzilla. I thought that was a cool aspect of it. And I like the fact that the reason Godzilla is doing all this is, one, he's getting ready for that because he feels something's wrong anyway, but it's alpha versus alpha. It's, best versus best. And I love where in the trailer it's like, who bows down to who? You know, the movie title, Godzilla versus Kong, it lives up to that name. Um, I did like the characters in this. I think the only weak character of the film, in my opinion, Alexander Skarsgård. He plays Nathan. I think he was probably the only weak one. I wish he wasn't in this one. I wish the guy from Godzilla X Kong Trapper, I wish he would have been in this. Uh, but this is the first time we get introduced to Gia, and the first time we get introduced to Rebecca Hall's character, Dr. Andrews. This is the first time we get introduced to her. Millie Bobby Brown's back in it, and then, of course, the introduction of Bernie. Overall, I think the cast is wonderful. And when it does focus on the main characters, it's not a boring, oh my gosh, let's hurry up, get this over with. Like I said, I feel like they really delivered on giving you Godzilla and Kong and the action between them, and then going back to the main characters. I love the aspect of Hollow Earth. I didn't know how to feel about it the first time I watched it, but I do like the aspect now that we've learned that King Kong, or they just call him Kong right now, he stays and keeps everything good in the Hollow Earth, and Godzilla stays up here on Earth with us on the surface. I do like that aspect. To me, I'm going to compare this to Freddy versus Jason. Freddy versus Jason is one of my favorite films, and I could not wait to see these two iconic villains going after it, these two iconic killers. That's how I feel about Godzilla versus Kong. Like I said, this right here was perfect to me. And then this movie right here, the first time I saw the trailer, I was like, I got to be there. It's going to be awesome. Um, Any negatives on the film, I'll just say, like I said, the character Nathan, I feel like he kind of, his acting wasn't up to par, I feel like. And I really just, I don't know, when he didn't have that presence on the screen that one of your main characters should. I mean, I feel like he really didn't bring a whole lot to the movie, in my opinion. But I also like the fact that you have Dr. Andrews and Gia. You know, they're focusing on Kong, and then you have Madison and Bernie and their little friend focusing on Godzilla. So you're getting two separate stories. I do like the fact that because they're wanting to protect Kong in this group, and this group they're wanting to find out why Godzilla is hurting innocent people. So I do like that fact. They split it up very well. And like I said, the pacing of the movie is great. And I love the final battle between Godzilla and Kong, where they're in Tokyo. I think it's in Tokyo. I may be wrong, but they've got all the lighting perfect in this city, and it's nighttime, but you can still see what's going on. It wasn't quick camera cuts where you couldn't see. I love the fact that when Kong's down, Godzilla gets in his face, and they both do the intimidating roar and stuff in each other's face. And then, of course, the final battle when Mecha Godzilla is released and how Kong and Godzilla work together. Thought that was great. Overall, I love this universe. I love this one. This is my number one, and I highly recommend this universe to anybody. And I cannot wait to see what's more to come from this series. With that being said, I do have a special Friday 13th episode coming out. I'm going to be ranking all of the Friday the 13th final girls. September 13th is on Friday the 13th, and that's actually mine and my wife's anniversary. So that's going to be cool. Our 21st anniversary. Anyway, so that's what I'll be releasing on that day is the final girls of the Friday 13th series, the ranking from worst to best. And as always, if you can't get enough of hearing about horror movies and you like listening to podcasts, check out mine and my buddy Randy's podcast. We're on Spotify, available for download on iTunes. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, pretty much anywhere you can get podcasts. We are Small Town Horror with Johnny and Randy. And I just want to say to each and every one of you, I truly appreciate you guys checking out, you guys and gals checking out my videos, checking out the YouTube channel, subscribing, let your friends and family know. And as always, God bless each and every one of you. And until next time.